a botanist from the University of Colorado Springs branch, Robert Melamede, who has written an article sort of comparing the carcinogenic effect of cannabis with tobacco and explaining why he thinks that cannabis has the anti-cancer effect for lung cancer.
There's nothing else that impacts on so many of our illnesses. You see, when I talk about these age-related illnesses, we're all aging, but we don't all come down with cardiovascular disease. We don't all come down with autoimmune disease. We don't all come down with cognitive dysfunction. We don't all come down with cancer. But the chances are we're going to come down with one of them. All right? And here we have this one drug that's able to help us holistically with our biochemistry to restore balance. You know, cannabinoids kill cancer cells in many cases. People are not aware of that. They think cancer, cannabis, anti-nausea. It's way beyond that.
There are also studies taking a look at other organ systems that have found that marijuana seeks out the cancerous cells and preferentially kills them over the healthy cells.
There's a wealth of laboratory evidence that these anti-tumor properties kill cancer cells in a variety of ways. There are multiple mechanisms of action identified by which cannabis kills cancer cells, and they're divided into various categories. And among these are anti-proliferative effects. Normally, that's one of the hallmarks of a cancer cell, is that it just keeps reproducing. So if you stop the reproduction, that's an anti-proliferative effect. There are anti-angiogenesis effects, and this means that the cannabinoids will stop the tumor from being able to elaborate or grow new blood vessels to support the growth of the tumor. There are anti-metastatic effects, and that is simple enough to mean that the cannabinoids block the ability of the cancer cells to spread into other tissues. And there's another effect that has a wild name, apoptotic effect. Apoptosis refers to the ability of cannabinoids to speed the death of the abnormal cells.
而以上所提出大麻能夠殺死癌細胞嘅機制，包括停止癌細胞不斷繁殖、抑制癌瘤血管新生作用、阻止癌細胞擴散到其他組織、加快異常細胞死亡。以西醫嘅角度，要達至每一種機制，亦都需要處方唔同嘅抗癌藥。並且到現時為止，亦都係喺試驗嘅階段，並唔能夠保證100%有效，而且每一種都有佢嘅副作用。相反，面對最難處理嘅腦癌，大麻具有獨特嘅功效。
The ability of cannabinoids to kill bad cells while protecting healthy ones is particularly important when we're talking about brain cancer because of the so-called blood-brain barrier. The brain has to be sheltered from outside influences that might hitch a ride on the bloodstream and cause havoc. What is exciting and unique about cannabinoids is that they can pass through the blood-brain barrier because of their slippery, fat-loving nature. Cannabinoids get right into the brain's cancer cells by moving easily through the cell's membranes, which are also composed of lipids. The evidence is piling up in mice-infested labs that the endocannabinoid system, when stimulated by cannabinoids, has an anti-tumor effect and can instruct cancer cells to commit suicide.
This was done by Manuel Guzman's group within the past less than 10 years, and what they showed there was that originally that THC, when injected into a brain tumor in mice and rats, a significant number of those animals the tumor would regress and disappear, so that you actually had survival of rats that would otherwise die. And they examined all the surrounding nerve tissue, and that was all fine, because remember, once again, cannabinoids protect nerves.
Dr. Manuel Guzman is a professor of biochemistry and molecular biology in Madrid, Spain, and is known for his groundbreaking studies on medical cannabis.
Hemos observado que los cannabinoides tienen un efecto inductor de la muerte de las células tumorales, un efecto inhibidor de lo que es el crecimiento, la multiplicación de las células tumorales, lo que hacen es disminuir el crecimiento de los tumores.
喺美國，除咗由醫生發牌處方大麻為藥物之外，亦有人因為曾經患癌，但傳統西醫亦放棄嘅時候， 之後發現大麻嘅功用，甚至自製大麻油醫自己，亦因為自己嘅經歷，成為民間用法嘅提倡者。
My name is Rick Simpson. I live at 344 Little Forks Road, just outside of Macan, Nova Scotia. I'm here to tell you about the most medicinal plant known to man, hemp. Oils made from the hemp plant are the most medicinally active substances ever found in nature. Up until about 85 years ago, hemp medicines were widely used all over the world. Many drug companies in the 1800s and early 1900s produced hemp medicines for decades. Hemp is a plant, and therefore it cannot be patented. To drug companies, no patent means no money, hence no interest in producing this drug. When you examine bud from the hemp plant, you can see that it is covered in resin. This resin makes the bud appear to be covered in frost. This resin is the medicine. When collected and processed properly, the resulting oil is an effective cure or control for practically any disease known to man, even cancer. We have supplied this oil to dozens of people with cancer. Even people who were diagnosed with terminal cancer by our medical system now have a clean bill of health after treatment with hemp medicine. When working with this medicine, medical miracles are a common occurrence.
But in a small Nova Scotia town, one man is trying to get the word out about what he says are the healing properties of hemp oil. But as Ross Lord explains, where he's spreading the word has created a major headache with no cure in sight.
In McCann, Nova Scotia, this oil is gaining a reputation as a miracle drug.
That's the cure right there.
Oil extracted from marijuana plants. Rick Simpson has been making it and giving it to friends and neighbors. He calls it hemp oil. Others know it as weed oil. In small doses, he says, it makes you well without getting you high.
Hemp oil containing THC has been touted as an effective treatment for many diseases, including cancer. But distributing THC, the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana, is illegal. And that has some Nova Scotia users worried their supply of medicinal hemp oil will disappear. Global's Ray Bradshaw has the story.
I'm used to it.
Hemp oil is being used by some people in the Macan area of Nova Scotia to help in the treatment of cancer. Now they're worried their hemp oil will be taken away.
People are being very scared of the RCMP coming in their home and taking their medicine from them. And the whole community itself is living in fear down here, including my family.
That's because the hemp oil Rick Simpson is making contains THC, an illegal substance. He says there's medical proof that THC kills cancer cells. Rick Dwyer says Simpson's hemp oil cured his father's cancer and other diseases.
It took the fluid off his lungs. It repaired the prostate. It did so many things for him. He doesn't even take his insulin now for his diabetes because it controls his diabetes.
當然，由於係民間提煉法，有佢嘅危險性，所以佢絕對唔提議別人去做。
It may take a few hours to evaporate the water off the oil. In the end, there should be no bubbling or other activity on the surface of the oil. When the oil is hot, it is quite runny, but as it cools, the oil takes on the consistency of a thick grease. Generally, a pound of good hemp bud will produce about 2 ounces of high-grade oil. Ingesting this amount of oil over a 2 to 3 month period is enough to cure most serious cancers.
甚至喺互聯網盛行嘅今日，人民醒覺所帶嚟嘅壓力，連政府官方機構同主流傳媒亦唔可以唔承認大麻對癌症嘅功效。
California was the first state to make medical marijuana legal back in 1996. Now, for the first time ever, a federal agency has recognized that marijuana does have medical benefits. Last week, the National Cancer Institute added a summary of marijuana's possible benefits to its treatment database. It reads, quote, the potential benefits of medicinal, cannabis for people living with cancer include antiemetic, I hope I got that right, effects, appetite stimulation, pain relief, and improved sleep. In the practice of interactive oncology, the healthcare provider may recommend medicinal cannabis not only for symptom management, but also for its possible direct anti-tumor effect. So that's a lot of medical benefits. This new assessment from the National Cancer Institute could have an impact on the classification of marijuana as a Schedule I drug. That's the harshest possible drug degree classification. One of the main criteria for a Schedule I drug is that, quote, the drug or other substance has no currently accepted medical use in treatment in the United States. Now, if a federal agency has recognized the medicinal benefits of marijuana, technically it shouldn't be moved down to a Schedule III drug. But a change of scheduling for pot could also mean an end to the federal government using a tax law loophole to put medical marijuana shops out of business. For years, the IRS has been citing Section 280E of the tax code that blocks medical shops from getting business tax deductions. It reads, quote, no deduction or credit shall be allowed for any amount paid if such trade or business consists of trafficking in controlled substances within the meaning of Schedule I and II of Controlled Substances Act. So if pot ends up becoming a Schedule III drug, this loophole that the feds are using would have no standing. Do you understand the importance of this? Then they could not bust all those shops that are selling marijuana. Finally, the government has admitted, you know what, medical marijuana does have benefits. Now, can we stop this madness?
但係同雙氧水一樣，大麻被壓抑嘅原因係因為佢易於自行栽植、廉價嘅特性，導致財閥們唔能夠再乘人之危，喺別人嘅疾病上不斷賺取龐大嘅金錢利益。歷史上，縱使大麻有住多方面嘅用途，佢哋亦都可以因住一己利益嘅緣故，一夜之間禁絕大麻所有用途都在所不惜。所以，對於善於製造問題、演繹問題、提供答案嘅財閥們，佢哋對大麻醫學用途嘅壓抑定必持續落去。所以，縱使大麻喺醫藥上嘅療效顯著，但值得重申，香港唔同歐美各國。喺香港，任何使用大麻同大麻油，就算係醫學用途，均屬違法行為。回顧過去 ，Freemason 用盡方法成為政治上嘅領袖，而事實上，美國多任總統亦係來自 Freemason。原因佢哋一旦能夠通過法例，就可以將整個政府嘅所有資源作為己用，開動政府機器，令到人民所給予嘅稅收、權力同埋忠誠，亦都變成打壓佢哋自己嘅工具，令佢哋連接觸一種能夠幫助佢哋嘅植物嘅權利、祝福，亦都被奪去，只能夠成為銀行家、石油大亨嘅奴隸。
All available research has concluded that marijuana is dangerous to our health. Marijuana limits learning and memory perception and judgment and our ability to drive a car.
The war on marijuana is also a war on the sick and dying. Even after California and 5 other states overwhelmingly approved medical marijuana initiatives in the late 90s, the federal government still plays hardball.
Despite these initiatives, we want to make clear that federal law still applies, and federal officials will continue to apply the law, and DEA officials will review cases, as they have, to determine whether to revoke the registration of any physician who recommends or prescribes so-called Schedule I controlled substances.
This is not a medical initiative. This is a legalization of drugs issue.
The federal government, by classifying marijuana in Schedule I, is saying that it has no medical uses, which is a bald-faced lie because it has 10,000 years in every culture of medical use.
It's impossible for a human to overdose and die, which is not true of alcohol, nicotine, barbiturates, or morphine. And it's a drug which humans can use under a wide variety of circumstances with safety.
They don't care if marijuana is the only drug that can alleviate your pain and suffering so that you can live longer, so that you can take your chemotherapy, so that you have a reasonable quality of life. They would rather fight the war on drugs even though they know that there are sick and dying patients being denied relief because of their position. Unconscionable.
終有一日 ，Freemason 過去嘅陰謀將會被揭露，而當大麻嘅藥用價值被認可以及合法應用嘅時候，人民將會追討呢班幾十年嚟為住金錢而泯滅人性、 使到世界上無數人痛苦咁枉死喺各種疾病嘅 Freemason 銀行家嘅罪。